This World War II story reveals how long-range artillery, battlefield deception, and fatal timing combined to destroy one of Nazi Germany's most feared armored divisions. Using real historical accounts, maps, and tactical analysis, this video breaks down how a single shot from extreme distance turned into total annihilation. The shot that shouldn't exist. July 12th, 1943. Northern edge of the Kursk salient, Soviet Union. Dawn breaks low and red over the wheat fields, the air already vibrating with distant artillery. Engines idle in the tree line as Oberstleutnant Karl-Heinz Bremer, operations officer of the Panzer Grenadier Division Großdeutschland, studies his map under the hood of a Kübelwagen. Dust clings to his boots. The smell of fuel, oil, and warm steel hangs everywhere. Bremer believes he is safe. 20 kilometers to the east, beyond the shallow ridges and broken villages, the Soviet front is supposed to be disorganized, reeling from days of German pressure. Reconnaissance reports show nothing heavy. No railguns, no massed artillery, just shattered infantry and scattered batteries pulling back. Then the ground shudders. At first, it's subtle, a deep, slow concussion that feels more like a distant earthquake than a shell. Bremer looks up, confused. The sound is wrong, too heavy, too deliberate. It doesn't whistle, it doesn't scream, it presses against the air. Seconds later, the sky tears open. The impact is not near Bremer's command post. It lands squarely in the division's rear assembly area, where fuel trucks, ammunition carriers, and reserve armor are packed tight along a sunken road. The shell, nearly a meter long, steel-jacketed, fired from a Soviet 203mm B-4 howitzer at extreme range, punches into the earth and detonates beneath the surface. The explosion lifts tanks off the ground. A chain reaction follows that no one planned for and no one survives. Ammunition cooks off in sequence, first small arms, then 75mm shells, then the massive propellant charges stacked for the Panthers and Tigers waiting to move forward. The road becomes a wall of flame. Turrets shear loose. Fuel ignites in rolling firestorms that leap from vehicle to vehicle. Men who were drinking coffee seconds earlier are erased without a sound. From the German forward lines, soldiers turn and stare as a column of black smoke climbs thousands of meters into the sky. Even veteran tank crews fall silent. This is not normal artillery fire. This is annihilation. Bremer runs toward the blast zone, shouting into his radio, demanding reports. None come. The net dissolves into static and fragmented screams. Signals officers try alternate frequencies. Nothing answers. Unknown to Bremer, this moment has been months in the making. 20 kilometers away, hidden in a forest reinforced with camouflage netting and freshly cut branches, Captain Ivan Sokolov, Red Army Artillery Intelligence, lowers his binoculars. He doesn't cheer. He doesn't speak. He simply nods once to the gun crew beside him. The coordinates were exact. For weeks, Soviet reconnaissance units, ski patrols, partisan scouts, aerial photo analysts had tracked the movement patterns of Großdeutschland's logistics tail. They noted the same behavior again and again. The Germans assembled their reserves in the same low ground, relying on distance and presumed Soviet weakness as protection. The location sat just beyond the effective range of most standard artillery. Just beyond, except for one gun. The B-4 howitzer was never meant for this kind of shot. It was designed to smash bunkers, not reach across 20 kilometers of contested ground. But Soviet engineers modified the firing tables, adjusted propellant loads, and rehearsed the elevation again and again. One shell, one chance. No ranging shots, no corrections. Miss, and the gun would be exposed, counter-battered, destroyed. Sokolov had argued for the strike personally. He knew what lay clustered in that ravine: fuel, shells, replacement crews, command vehicles, a Panzer Division's beating heart. Back at the blast site, the destruction continues to unfold. Secondary explosions ripple outward, setting off mines stacked for later use. Medical vehicles are obliterated before they can move. Reserve tanks burn without firing a single round. The division's supply spine is gone in under 3 minutes. German commanders begin to understand the scale of the disaster, but not its cause. Luftwaffe officers swear no bombers were overhead. Forward observers report no artillery barrages. Just one impossible impact, followed by hell. Bremer finally stops running when he sees what remains of the assembly area. There is nothing to command anymore. No formations, no reserves, just wreckage, fire, and wounded men crawling through ash. Somewhere far away, a Soviet gun crew begins the careful process of disassembling their weapon. They will move before dawn. There will be no second shot. There doesn't need to be. The German offensive timetable, so precise, so confident, has just collapsed around a single, perfectly placed round. Collapse in the shadow of precision. The fires burn through the morning. By 9:40 hours, the smoke plume from the destroyed assembly area is visible for more than 30 kilometers. Luftwaffe reconnaissance aircraft circle cautiously at altitude, pilots reporting complete devastation in clipped, disbelieving tones. One pilot notes overturned Panthers, their armor blackened and split open like torn steel fruit. Another reports no movement, no organized withdrawal, no repair crews, no signs of command. For Oberstleutnant Karl-Heinz Bremer, the reality settles in with brutal clarity. Grossdeutschland is no longer a division capable of offensive action. Its fuel reserves are gone. Its ammunition stocks are incinerated, its reserve armor intended to exploit breakthroughs has been reduced to scrap before seeing combat. This was not a battlefield loss. This was surgical decapitation. Bremer radios Army Group Center with a message he never expected to send: division combat ineffective, rear completely destroyed, cause unknown. The response is silence. German doctrine is built on momentum, on rapid armored thrusts supported by tightly coordinated logistics. Without fuel, tanks are steel coffins. Without shells, even tigers are useless. The single Soviet shell has severed the artery feeding the German spearhead. By midday, Soviet infantry probes begin pushing forward. At first, they encounter little resistance. German forward units, unaware of the disaster behind them, attempt to hold their positions. But radios fail. Resupply never comes. Panzer crews discover their fuel gauges hovering near empty. Artillery batteries fire a few desperate salvos, then fall silent. Soviet commanders, initially cautious, sense the change. Major General Nikolai Voronov, coordinating artillery operations for the sector, orders reconnaissance in force. Prisoners are taken within hours, German soldiers dazed, exhausted, confused. They speak of an explosion that wiped out everything. Some insist it must have been sabotage. Others whisper about a secret weapon. None imagine the truth. By late afternoon, Soviet armor advances into gaps that should not exist. Where German counterattacks were expected, there is only smoke and abandoned equipment. The battlefield has lost its rhythm. The Germans are reacting, not controlling. At Red Army headquarters, Captain Ivan Sokolov receives confirmation of the damage assessment. His superiors are stunned, not by the destruction, but by its scale. One shell, one firing solution. An entire elite division neutralized without a conventional barrage. Sokolov allows himself a single moment of reflection. He thinks of the weeks spent calculating trajectories, arguing with engineers, convincing skeptical officers that the shot was possible. He thinks of the risk of how failure would have meant not just wasted ammunition, but exposure and death. Instead, the impossible has rewritten the battle. German high command scrambles for explanations. Some officers suspect air attack, others accuse local commanders of incompetence. A few more perceptive begin to understand what truly happened. The Soviets had learned to see deeper, to strike not the spear, but the hand that fed it. The realization is devastating. As night falls, Grossdeutschland attempts a withdrawal, but withdrawals require coordination, routes are clogged with wreckage, engineers lack explosives to destroy what remains. Soviet artillery, now firing conventionally, begins to walk shells along the retreat paths. The division fractures. By dawn the next day, what remains of Grossdeutschland exists only as scattered battalion-sized groups retreating west under constant pressure. The offensive is over, the initiative is gone. In the weeks that follow, German planners quietly revise their assumptions. Rear areas are dispersed. Assembly zones are moved farther back. But the damage is already done. The lesson has been learned the hard way. Distance is no longer safety. For the Red Army, the event becomes a classified case study. It is not celebrated publicly. There are no medals for the gun crew. The weapon itself is relocated and reassigned. The war moves on, but among those who witnessed it on both sides, the memory endures. A panzer division did not fall to a grand encirclement or a massed assault. It fell to intelligence, patience, and a single, perfectly calculated shot fired from beyond the horizon. On the Eastern Front, power no longer belonged solely to those who could advance fastest, but to those who could see farthest.